All right, y'all. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Ricky Hicks Jr. podcast. I am your co-host, Idris Salam. I got my two buddies here. Another host, Mike Zappi, and the host of the show, Richie Hicks Jr. And today, we got my cousin, Super Bowl champion. His grandmother and my grandmother were sisters. Son of Super Bowl champion, Aaron Moorhead. Wide receiver coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Aaron Moorehead's in the building, y'all.
Come on. Appreciate you.
Welcome to the show, Aaron. Pleasure to have you here.
I love it, man. I love it because, the NBA Finals just got done. We're at that point in football where mini camps are kind of winding down, and you got those next 4 to 5 weeks before training camp starts. We're a lot at this time to speak with Aaron Moorhead and just get to speak with other players and stuff like that, man. While people hate this time of the year, I love it. Football season's right around the corner, guys. Let's go.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. I titled this episode Speaking with the Enemy because, as many of you know, the second oldest rivalry in the NFL, Philadelphia Eagles, New York Giants. And the Eagles have been a thorn in our side, for lack of a better word, for longer than I would like to admit. But I appreciate you hanging with us. I know that your schedule is very demanding. But I wanted to give the viewers an opportunity just to know a couple of facts about you. Attended Deerfield High School, Illinois. Attended the University of Illinois. As we already stated, you won a Super Bowl as a member of the Indianapolis Colts. Graduate assistant roles in New Mexico as well as Stanford, spanning from 2009 to 2012. Wide receivers coach 2013 to the present in Virginia Tech, in Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, and currently the Philadelphia Eagles. And you are one half of the third father and son duo to win Super Bowls. That is a very short list. Very good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Your father, Emery, with the legendary 1985 Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
I appreciate y'all having me. It's great. Can't wait.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to have an enemy on the show.
Look here. This was like we're getting up the draft lottery. Like, yo, we got the first pick.
This is
the first pick. We're supposed to get the number 10 pick.
Yeah, this is cool because like when Idris had made mention to me about some of his members of his family, I was like, Jesus, this is a talented family. Respectfully, it's a talented family. But I did want to ask you, where should we begin? How about your football journey? Enlighten us, the viewers, about your journey from player to coach.
It was cool. I mean, as you guys kind of already mentioned, just going in, and one thing I had to do was when I went to University of Illinois, I walked on, and so as a walk-on, to earn a scholarship, to earn playing time, you got to do everything right, and you got to know all the positions from the receivers to the tight ends. And you got to know what the quarterback's thinking. You got to know when he's throwing you the ball, the different reads. And so as a walk-on in college, it forced me to learn that offense to a T. And I was fortunate enough to be in the same offense all 5 years in college. So that mentality kind of helped me towards potentially being a coach. And then obviously we talked about Indianapolis, but again, the same thing happened. I went from being in the Big Ten, winning the Big Ten, and then I went undrafted to Indianapolis. So I kind of had to do the same process over again. So it wasn't foreign to me, where some of these guys had never had to do that. Some guys weren't used to having to claw from the bottom and figure out a way to do it. So I learned the offense, again, the same way that I did at Illinois, and understood the reads, understood when the quarterback was coming to me, understood when you needed to do certain things perfect, and when other times you could kind of catch your breath and take a play where you didn't have to go 100% and you knew the next play you were going to have to. So I kind of used all that to my advantage early on both of those, and it ended up working out great. But Peyton Manning was the ultimate coach on the field, and if you didn't do it right, he was going to let you know before your coach got to you. So you had to do it right every single time, perfect. And so going into coaching, all those things just prepared me without me even knowing that it was preparing me for what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And then I was able to transition. I did a year of high school back at my high school. I coached for 4 years in Indianapolis at a local high school during the off season, like during this time now, spring and now. through the summer, and then I would go to the games on Friday nights with the guys, ride the school bus with them, the whole deal, So, and so that was good for me to prepare myself. And then I got into coaching through Mike Loxley, who's the head coach at University of Maryland now, had gotten the head coaching job at the University of New Mexico. Well, Lox was at Illinois as the offensive coordinator. My friend, who I played with in Indianapolis, Rand Carthon, who is now the GM of the Tennessee Titans, Rand played running back for Lox at Florida. So Rand was like, hey, let's go to Illinois. You know everybody there. I want to go see Lox.
Yeah.
And that's how I met Lox. And that's how I'm here. So all these little things, me and Rand kind of becoming buddies. Rand saying, let's go to Champaign. I go to New Mexico. I meet my wife. We got 3 kids. Like little things. We were there for 1 year. Met her. We moved. Stanford. And then the list went on. And had some great mentors along the way. David Shaw, Pep Hamilton, who's Charlotte guy, Derek Mason, Lox, obviously we talked about that. So a lot of different guys along the way. Frank Beamer's unbelievable coach, legendary coach. And then obviously, you get in the NFL and there's a lot of people along the way. But it's been a pretty cool journey for me. But I feel like every little piece of it has helped me from the beginning to the end.
Question: did you coach under Harbaugh, or were you under?
Yeah, I can't even. I to the fact that I didn't say Harbaugh is terrible. Like,
yeah, I wasn't sure.
Harbaugh and my dad played together in Chicago. Right. Harbaugh lived in our town, so I've known Jim Harbaugh since I was 7 or 8 years old. So Jim gave me my job when I left from New Mexico to Stanford, and Jim's great. Jim has always been great. Jim's tough. Jim's there's a reason he's been successful every place he's gone, and it was cool watching Michigan this year, even though I'm not a Michigan guy, but it was cool watching Michigan this year do what they did because of him, and they had great players and all that stuff, but it was fun watching it. Jim is everywhere he's gone, he's found a way to rebuild or reload it, and he's been super successful. He's a tough coach, man. He's a tough guy to work for. He's a tough guy to play for. But you can have the mentality that everything is there for a reason, and the reason it's tough is because it's going to help you on Saturdays or Sundays. Then you can play for him or coach for him.
Okay. Luck.
Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah. I had told the guys, I said, I believe you coach with Luck. I was like, so what is the position of a wide receivers coach? What does it entail?
Well, essentially you have the day-to-day of your room, which is basically you get them ready, whatever plays are in, you're helping getting them ready or watching film on the DBs for that week. And then obviously you got to be in tune with the offensive coordinator and the quarterbacks, and make sure that everybody's on the same page. And again, it's not like we go in the meeting on Monday, we talk on Monday, we go in there Tuesday, and it's final. On Wednesday, it's perfect. Like it's a whole week-long process of Wednesday practice, Wednesday meetings, Thursday practice, Thursday meetings, Friday practice, Saturday meetings, and you're getting yourself prepared for the game. And it's practice like any other practice in the world where guys mess up, you correct them. Guys may mess it up again. You recorrect them. We have walkthroughs every single day, all the way leading up to game day. If we have a night game, we'll walk through during the morning of the game day. So a lot of those walkthroughs are just as important as the game, and it's your job to facilitate, your position and make sure the guys are doing what they're supposed to do. And it's a great position to coach. We got the divas. Everybody calls the receivers the divas, and I think they're right about that. But I played it, so I know how it is, and they love that. So we have a good time in our room.
So when you're, speaking to you, and I'm looking at the resume of coaches you have either coached under or you've worked with, and you talk about a Frank Beamer, a Kevin Sumlin, Doug Peterson, or Nick Sirianni. Out of the 4, which one would you say was the hardest coach to work with in general, whether it was as an employer or being a player under him? And which one were you able to soak up the most information from?
Well, I'll say that the hardest one to work for was probably two. So Harbaugh, we kept crazy hours. Like you were in at 6:30, and we might not leave till 11 some nights, 12, 12:30, and you were back in at 6:30. So it was that was hard. That was really hard. I would say the guy I probably learned the most, and then Nick now, because Nick's been a receiver coach his whole life. So whenever you're the position of the head coach that he's coached, you always get it the worst. So probably those two guys have been the hardest. Probably the two guys I've learned the most under, probably Dave Shaw was really a great mentor to me, a guy that taught me a lot. And then Nick's been great. I think I'm a great receivers coach. I think about myself as one of the best receivers coaches in the world. That's how I think about it. And Nick would say the same thing about himself. So I picked up a lot from him, just as far as certain things he teaches and why. And, some of it we agree on, some of it we disagree on, but most of it, we pretty much speak the same language. And I think that I've become a better wide receiver coach in the last 3 years because of him. And I love that. I love coming to work every day. It's hard as hell. He knows what the expectation is, and I know what the expectation is. And sometimes, there's times where he says, I'm the head coach, this is the way it's going to get done. And you say, yes, sir, let's go to work, and that's the end of it, So but he's tough to work for, but it's fun, especially when you're winning,
I think as a group, we could attest to your growth as a coach and the success of your players. It's no secret that your receiving room is very talented and is now going to be more talented. I did have a question for you in terms of your days as a player. Obviously, your father, goes without saying, would be a great mentor and an inspiration. I guess the question will be not family related, particular player or players who you tried to model your game after, or just motivated you to continue to work hard at your craft?
Yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, it's funny, man. I think if you're looking for motivation, you can always find it, and so I always, when I was young, I said my favorite player is Jerry Rice. And you saw him running those hills and running up, Walter Payton was running up the hills and you just see these guys work and you're like, there's a reason, plus their talent, that these guys are very successful, So those were older guys that I could look at and go, this is what, and then once I got playing, the guys I played with, the Marvin Harrisons and Reggie Waynes and Brandon Stokely's and Troy Walters, it's like these guys, I got into Indy and they were there. They were veteran guys or young veteran guys, and you just watched them work and you went, man, I know how to work, but I got to kick it up a notch because of these guys, and then when I was a rookie, I was fighting with basically two guys for this roster spot. And they were both ahead of me. One guy was on the practice squad. One guy was on the roster the year before. And, these guys were good players. And I saw how hard they worked. And they were working harder than those other guys. And I'm like, man, I got to work harder than them if I'm going to beat them out. So, find the motivation where you can find it. I'm telling you, I sat down. You'd laugh at this. I'm drunk as you know what Saturday night. Okay, it's in the off season. So I get up on Sunday morning. I'm laying on the couch. I can't move. I'm basically chugging water just to try to feel better. And The Biggest Loser's on, and I'm sitting there watching this show, The Biggest Loser, and I'm like, if these 400-pound fuckers can get up and be on this treadmill, running, sweating, and I'm in the NFL. If you don't get off the couch and go run right now, you're the worst. And so I would literally watch that show on weekends to make me go work out on the weekends because I feel like, what are you doing? And so I found it from wherever I could find it.
That would not be the answer I expected.
Dude,
That's so
that was
that was about to ask you, what was the one thing that motivated you to not get complacent in your journey as an undrafted wide receiver out of University of Illinois to where here you are fighting for a roster spot to play alongside Peyton Manning and the Colts in a wide receiver room featuring Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison. What was that made you avoid complacency. And here you are talking about the biggest loser, you know, and it's amazing that what those shows can do to individuals like that.
It's just like, it's a competitive thing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm super competitive. Like, my wife would tell you to a fault, you know, but like, I want my kids to be competitive. I want my room to be competitive. And if you're not competitive all the time, then it's hard for you to be in that mode. And I think that, yeah, as I've gotten older, I've slowed down a little bit as far as just being crazy about it. But it's like, I don't want to lose in a board game to my kids. I don't want to lose playing cards to my kids. I don't want to lose a football game. It's all goes hand in hand. And if you're competitive, you're competitive. And I think that you just got to find it different ways. That's all.
You know, I saw when you posted the photo of your daughter.
Yeah.
I said she got the same drive he has, because I seen that the alley. This girl gonna be something, you know. Yeah, I see it.
Now, we talked about competition. Go ahead, Zach. I'll hold
going back to what you were saying as how the approach you took as a player. Now I'm going to use the Buffalo Bills as an example here. We have the whole situation going on right now between Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. And, you know, the wide receiver room, the questions about whether he will be a Bill, whether he'd be traded, whatever the case is. As a wide receiver coach with coaching and guys like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Quez Watkins, if you had a similar situation, how do you as a coach approach the wide receiver room to use it as an opportunity for the younger guys of this is your time to shine, go out there while AJ or Devontae's not there because of whatever the case may be, to help these guys realize that, hey, while our number one might not be here, this is your opportunity to take over the realm and try to make this team?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. And I'll tell you, man, when I was playing, during this off-season time, OTAs, we had mini camp, which you had to be at, and we had OTAs, which you didn't have to be at. My first year as a player, Marvin came to the first OTA, just to remind everybody, hey, I'm the starter, I'm over here, this is my spot. And then he would show up to mini camp for those 3 days and remind everybody how good he was, and then he would leave. He was it. That's all he was there the whole summer. Okay? Reggie was there the entire time. My second year, Reggie was there for the first couple days, and then he'd come back from minicamp. So your top two starters were out the entire time. So that gave Peyton the ability to work with the 3, 4, 5, 6 guys and get the timing down with them. So he didn't always get that timing in practice. Like, how many times am I going to run an 18-yard comeback with Peyton compared to Marvin? Well, if it's primary, Marvin's going to run it 100% of the time, and I'm going to be 0, right? But in OTAs, he wasn't there, so now you get that timing. He gets to feel how you get out of the route compared to the other guys, and so that's how I grew up in the game. So to me, if you're Josh Allen, if you're guys in the Buffalo Bills room and Diggs isn't there, or he is whatever's going on, if he's not going to practice, that's your time to get the reps with the quarterback who's, you don't always get those reps. So I think that's pretty good for those guys. I think it's healthy. And at the end of the day, you've got to remind them that, hey, Diggs could sprain his ankle and be out for a game or two. You got to be ready to go. And this may be the time that allows you to be successful because you did work with the quarterback where you might not get those reps all the way through camp and things like that.
Right. Now, Aaron, I did want to ask you, we said it off air. Today's NFL, running back, I think it goes without saying it's an important position, particularly in the latter months when the weather is crappy. Your guys' rivals, Idris and my team, New York Football Giants, the Saquon Barkley situation. A lot of conflicting reports, and I try to the best of my ability to not always believe everything that's written. But we'll just make an analogy or an example. You're a guy like Miles Sanders, your former player, currently a member of the Carolina Panthers. And it seems like it's a back and forth with who said what and who did this, going back to a report that, say, it was during the Seattle week, Giants bye week. Saquon turns down a deal, which I believe was going to be about $12.5 million per. Is it the same kind of talk, even in that category with running backs? I guess what I'm trying to say is, as a coach and as someone who has been in this league, What are your thoughts on the way that the running back market is, but more so the running back workload versus what they might not be making? And a lot of people think that it's actually very unfair.
Yeah, it's a tough position. I mean, they get beat up. You know, they're not dishing out the hits as much as they're, you know, kind of getting it. So, you know, everybody talks about the shelf life of a back and all that stuff, and you know, you got to be willing to pay guys to keep them that are important to your team. But sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes, you know, there's certain positions that are going to get valued over others in certain organizations, you know, and that's a different part of it too. Like certain organizations value running backs, certain organizations value cornerbacks, certain organizations are going to value a tight end where others may not. So it's just a matter of what the different organization wants. And then obviously a player like Saquon's a different story because the guy's so talented, man. And he's such a big part of their offense and what they do. And it's not like you can just replace that guy in that offense, you know? So, you know, they'll figure out a way to get something done. I mean, they got time, you know, that's when the fans get all crazy and they go, man, we got to get it done. We got to get it done.
Everybody's in panic mode.
You know, they'll get it done because they want to get it done and he wants to get it done. And
I read they reopened discussions kind of leaning towards the original deal, which I said about 12.5, possibly 13 mil. I think ultimately what makes a lot of these deals work I would have to think would be what it's in the guarantees. Because, you know, it's a very fickle business in terms of injuries. Anything could happen on any given Sunday. And I think that goes without saying. But even when we talk running backs, your Philadelphia Eagles have done a great job of incorporating a committee backfield. Behind, in my opinion,
Giants, we just played Boston Scott.
I knew that was coming. That dude kills us, bro.
That guy kills us, dude.
He has like 3 carries and 3 touchdowns. I'm like, what is this? Is this
and as a New Yorker, I don't like anything Boston.
And then he has the name
Boston Scott on us, man.
I'm like, oh god. Yeah, you know what? I kind of opened myself up.
We've done a good job, and we've got a great group, and you have to. Now the hard part with that is you've got to keep everybody happy, which is hard. You know, when you've got 1 or 2 guys, they're fine. They're getting the majority of the carries. They're getting the majority of the catches. You know, when you've got 3 or 4 guys, it's kind of hard. You know, Boston for us last year is a great example. We ended up moving them to kick returner just to get him some touches. You know,
I saw that.
He's too talented of a guy not to put the ball in his hand, and he did a great job for us on kick return last year. But you know, you have to be creative to keep guys happy and keep the locker room happy. And you don't want guys in the locker room like mumbling and grumbling down there. Oh, they can't give me the ball. I want to leave. I go somewhere. That trickles to other guys. So you get 1 or 2 guys that are upset. Now it's 3 or 4. Then it turns to 6 or 7, and then the locker room becomes a problem. So you got to find ways creatively to keep guys happy. And the running back room is a tough one because people don't run the ball as much as they used to. So
yeah, definitely pass happy. I feel that just from an analytic level, running back by committee, if you have the right O-line to make it work, does work because I feel that you're giving the defense different looks. And also it preserves guys because, you know, I love Saquon, but I would love in my team's case to see a little more. We drafted Gray. I have a feeling that he's going to be an instant contributor this year, possibly being the number 2. But I guess what I'm getting at is I think it's important to have fresh legs, especially in such a grueling season.
Absolutely. The receivers, the running backs, you got to have them. You got to have enough guys that, you know, even with what's happened with Saquon, and he's been fairly healthy and recent, but I mean, he hurt his knee a couple years back, and then all of a sudden, you know, you got to have a back that can go in and play and not be just okay, a guy that can really go out and help your team. So, you know, you got to have it, but all of a sudden you give him a huge contract. Well, how much more money do you want to put in that room? So now you're dealing with rookies, young guys that you're hoping can just, you know, be good players for you. So there's this like puzzle piece at the GMs that no one realizes that they have to put together. And we don't, as position coaches, you say, guys, do what you do. I got it. Whatever happens, happens. Yes, I'd love to have person A, person B, person C, but like I get that we can't all the time have exactly what we want. So that's part of the puzzle piece that you just allow them to do their job. And then whoever you have in your room, you do your job and you get them ready to play on Sunday.
And, that brings me to the point about, as we're talking about Saquon, now we're going to flip it over to the Eagles side of things. And we saw how the team moved on from a Miles Sanders and a guy who was not really featured much in the passing game, but now you insert a DeAndre Swift into that position who can be featured more in the passing game. How does a guy like him benefit the wide receiver room?
Well, at the end of the day, a guy with his talent coming out of the backfield or being lined up as a wide receiver, when you got the guys we have with Quez, AJ, Smitty, Goddard, well, who are you going to focus on? Well, I guarantee it's not going to be him, So now he should have a one-on-one matchup as a general or zone coverage, and then that allows Jalen to kind of put it together. But if he's got one-on-one matchup against a linebacker in space, well, he's got to win that matchup, and he will win that matchup. Where if you're going to choose to double somebody, then now, okay, well, how are you going to figure this out? How are you going to double him? Well, you're not. So, it allows certain guys to win. And that's the fun part about our offense right now is we do have a lot of skill that are very talented, and we got guys that can win one-on-one matchups and a quarterback who can get it out to them. So, we're sitting in a good place right now off season, and you just got to keep honing it and piecing it together during camp. And then, we'll come out the season ready to roll, and whatever we did last year, you hope you kind of keep the ball rolling, but it doesn't mean just because you did it last year, it's going to happen again this year. So you got to start over, but keep your confidence. And it's kind of a weird little tricky balance beam you got right there.
Now, as you're talking about coverages, there was actually a question I wanted to ask you, and it goes into an article I saw. It was back from 2021. I'm sorry. You had a great video about how you defeat the press coverage. Now, going into the season, the Eagles are the NFC East and AFC East have the two toughest divisions in football. How does someone like yourself, the wide receiver coach for the Eagles, teach your wide receivers how to beat this press coverage? Because you're going to be facing a lot of press coverage this year, as well as some zone coverage. So what are some things you do as a coach to help your wide receiver room grow?
Well, I think you have to do it every day in drills. We don't go a day without doing some sort of release. We have about 3, 4, 5 releases that we use. And then generally week in and week out, you kind of look at the DBs that you're playing, and you kind of go, hey, versus this guy, we want to use these couple releases. Versus this guy, you want to use these couple releases. And each week's different. Like going against Dallas, like Brown and Diggs were completely different players. And what Brown was good at, Diggs wasn't as good at. And what Diggs was really good at, Brown. So it's like you got to know the different guys you're going against each play. And same deal with New York, with Adore. Like Adore's a completely different player than some of these other corners. So you got to know when you're going against Adore, it's going to be different than the other couple guys you're going against. Or Darnay Holmes is super aggressive. Like you got to know that. So certain press coverage beaters that you have with your hands and your feet and all these different things you want to do, you got to kind of have it a little bit matchup based to know that what might work against Adore. Well, if all of a sudden you're in the slot and you're going against Darnay Holmes, isn't going to work. So that's the as you get older, understanding the differences between A and B and being able to go out and execute it.
Question about the wide receivers. When you guys watch film, are you watching film as a whole team, or are you watching like you just have the receivers, tight ends, or whatever in your own room where you're watching film on how to, deal with coverages?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do both. So we'll watch in the morning. I'll grab the receivers and watch it with them, and then we'll go together as a whole team about an hour later as an offense or defense. We'll meet and we'll watch a bunch of stuff then. So I'll be more specific to coverage or to individual players in the morning. Then we'll go more specific to coverages with the whole group. And then I'll come back in and watch it again with the guys after that meeting, and it'll be more specific to either individual plays or blocking versus the run game stuff. Or, so we'll kind of watch it all 3 different ways. So you you have to attack it a lot. You know, and the worst thing is watching film. No one wants to watch film. You got to understand that. Like players, coaches, like it's fun, but it's like long, tedious. That's what you're sitting there doing most of the time. You know, guys want to go out and play. Guys want to be on the field and coach. You know, but the film room is really where you gain your advantage. Right. And if you just think you're going to go out there and play, that's fine for a little while. Yeah. But as older you get, the harder it is just to go out there and play. So you got to have that film room advantage. And I think that's where, you know, as you go out there, it's like, make sure you're not wasting time in the film room because they don't want to be in there anyway. So everything you give them, pique their interest. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I got another question. I got Sharif Collins. He's a diehard Philly fan. Question he asked is about the check down. He says it's seen as a weapon in the passing game, and does having the safety valve invariably keep Jalen healthy by taking less hits. So how is the check down used? Because I know we watch a lot, you know, we as fans we watch football. We say, why is this guy always checking down? Why is he always checking down? You know, what is the purpose of a check down?
Well, it's especially good for two reasons. If they're playing zone defense and they're bailing out, you don't have a throw down the field. You should have someone underneath just to drop the ball off to, and then they can go get 10 yards. With a guy like Jalen Hurts, he can get out of the pocket or get through the line if there's a gap and run himself.
Always have to account for him. Always.
Right? So a non-traditional pocket passing quarterback of like 1998, those guys, they rather run. The pocket passing guys, they'll rather just check it down, you know, and get the ball out of their hands, and they don't have to do all the work. Well, so the question is, would you give it to the backs and not take hits off of Jalen? And I think the answer is yes. That at the end of the day, we just paid him a whole bunch of money. You want to eliminate some of the hits, but what makes Jalen is that he can escape and he can do some of that. So it's got to be a mix of both. You can't just say, hey, you just got this big contract, you're not going to run the ball anymore. No, that's not what you want.
We want him to run the ball.
Like, if you got a back that's sitting there wide open, throw it to him and let him do a little work sometimes. You don't have to always do that. So, you know, at the end of the day, man, it's a field thing. But, yeah, you got to be able to get those ball to those guys and let them be special in space, you know. And you look at, like, all of our respective teams. The Eagles have great guys out of the backfield, right? Pollard is unbelievable out of the backfield in Dallas, right? Saquon has been really good in and out of the backfield. So there's guys like our division, actually, I mean, even Washington with Robinson, I mean, there's good backs in our division.
He came back from a lot last year. He's going to have a nice year too.
So but the check down is very important if teams are playing zone. And then if they're playing man and you got a guy that can make a miss, now you're throwing the check down out towards the sideline, and you get a guy that can be running against man coverage. So it's all there. Yeah, I mean, the less hits your quarterback takes, we all know, the better chance you have to be healthy later in the season.
Well, as Giants fans, we want Jalen to run. We need to hit him a few times.
Yeah, just like Daniel Jones.
We did. I think we did. I think we did a pretty good job of beefing up that front seven. Where did Zappy go?
Just take off.
Cold-blooded.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying that, you know, the rivalries in this division, I think, amongst fans, I think that's one of the best things about this division. The most Lombardis on the whole, all the organizations combined. But I think it's just the richness of the fans and obviously the great organizations that make this so much fun because
we all hate each other.
Yeah, that goes without saying. And I think it's a little elevated with Aaron's team and ours. Yeah. Whereas I always tell people the Cowboys and the former Redskins, they might be the former Commanders soon. I always view them as the main chief rival, but you know, they have fallen on harder times. Giants Eagles, I mean, dude, that goes back to 1933. Yeah. Second oldest rivalry in the league behind only Chicago and Green Bay. And I think it's about 5 meetings separate us. Yeah. Yeah.
No love lost.
We know.
Yes.
figured it out. You figured it out when you go to the game, and you're looking up in the stands, and it's brutal, man. It's brutal.
There were a few shot glasses that were shattered
But
during
some Aaron,
that
those
late
texts you
meeting.
sent me about how you would talk about we had to teach y'all a lesson. I was sharing it with my buddies here, so they sort of.
It's all good, man. They do your squad. I get it. It's all good. I mean, and your father was drafted by the Giants,
Right.
so a couple of sneezes a few ways. You might have been a Giants fan. I did want to ask you that. I'm assuming you grew up a Bears fan, right?
I did. Huge.
Okay. Because you were born in Colorado,
Yeah.
which that was probably your father's lone year in Denver before.
They hadn't moved out. He loved it out there, so he really stayed out there more than he stayed in New York. But I was born when he was playing for the Giants. We just happened to be living out in Denver at that time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then once he went to Chicago, that was kind of the end of being out in Denver. And so my sister was born in Chicago. I was born in Denver.
Gotcha. Okay, because I know that had an influence on Idris's team affiliation. Goes without saying, Idris is a big Giants fan.
Yeah, because I was gonna be a Chiefs fan until
good right now.
Until
pretty good.
Until Eb got drafted, and then he got, he had got hurt. I think a liver. I can't remember what it was, and I went up to see him at the hospital. And right then is when I'm a Giants fan. This is my cousin right here. He done got his liver slashed playing football.
Yeah.
And that was it. Never looked back.
I mean, all these teams in our division have such history.
Yeah.
And you go back and the players that have played for them, the Hall of Famers, the personalities, it's not stopped. It's the same now as it was. It's just I think guys are a little more reserved because of social media and what can come out and certain things you say. You could have a 20-minute interview with a guy and you say one thing for one sentence and it comes out as negative, and guys just are a little more cautious. But at the end of the day, the history and the rivalries are what makes football fun. And I think that, this division's the best. And I think that because of how close, obviously, the Philly, Washington, New York is, Dallas is a little further away, but they speak for themselves with their history and the owner and everything that they've done. I mean, it's just a fun rivalry.
We have a holiday meeting this year. Idris and I can discuss that, maybe be attending.
I got a question right quick. What is it like coming out of the tunnel in Dallas, Washington, and New York? I mean, looking up in the stands.
Well,
I mean, what is that feeling like?
As a general, Washington's scary because the thing almost fell on our quarterback, so they got to take care of their stadium a little better. We don't mess with them. We try to stay right in the middle so we don't get smashed. The Dallas is through the tunnel, through you're going through essentially a place that all the fans are.
Yeah.
And there's ropes.
Oh,
and they're screaming everything in the world at you. They're right there. The MF and it's actually pretty cool, but you're not going through the big main tunnel and it's the people looking down on you. They are right here next to you in your ear.
Jerry had that plan.
That's pretty cool. I like that one. And then obviously New York is New York. They yelling, screaming, loud, fun. We caught them this year in the rain up there, so it was a little less amount of people at the beginning of the game. Yeah. But in the past, it's been a little, it's wild. It's a good place. Yeah. Great place to play football.
Now, I do have to ask you this. Your fan base from time to time does get a bit of a reputation for possibly being slightly overzealous. I guess that would be.
You wouldn't say that, would you?
The batteries with Stana, the 9-year-old double birding my man Eli. I can only imagine as a competitor, it's got to be amazing. Just for the sheer fact, like I said, if the passion's there, it speaks volumes on the intensity of all the rivalries. I think that's where I'm going. But, I do think over time it's kind of lightened somewhat because at the same time, and maybe players in your father's era, so to speak, they might frown upon the fact that guys are friends now. You could be an Eagle, you could be a Giant, you could be a Commander. Guys hang out, and it's a little more now in this era, more maybe acceptable or more common, I guess would be the right word. I don't think like you're going to see like Lawrence Taylor kicking it with Joe Theismann in public, making everybody know about it. It's just a little different.
Yeah, it's different. Like the fan bases are great. The fan bases aren't changing. You get that. But as a player, I think like my time playing was kind of the end of it. And what started this whole deal was they had these camps for high school, rivals camps and Elite 11 with the quarterbacks and all these different camps, which are similar. Basketball's had it forever, right? With the AAU tournament, the Nike camps back in the day. So football just kind of started these 7-on-7 camps and tournaments. And so these guys have known each other since high school, most of them.
Right.
So now when they get to the pros, it's not like this is the first time they've met. Where for us, I was in the era of if a dude got hurt on the field, you'd almost be like, screw him. Like, that's better for us. We can win we get better for us if we win the game. Like, and you never were trying to hurt a guy per se, but it was like you really didn't care, to be completely honest. And that's how those guys were, like the era before us. So then you go back now, and if the guy's on the ground, there's probably 4 or 5 guys on your team that know that guy.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or more.
Sure.
That now they do care that guy's hurt. So it's a little bit more like empathetic, I guess I would say, towards each other. Or if a guy has a good game, they're not like sitting there going, man, this dude, like they're happy, not happy, but like it's their boy. So they're like, well, good, he's playing good, that he can get paid now. It's like things like that. So I just think you're right. Like it's a little more, the players are a little more friendly. It's not just the only guys you knew were the college guys that you're buddies with. A lot of guys from a lot of different teams. And so I think, the fan bases are still crazy. I mean, I still have random people always coming up to me here that'll have opinions about the game or opinions about a certain player or certain, situation. And, I just kind of either let them talk. And if I'm not in a great mood, I may remind them that they don't know anything. And the fact that why do you think you know more than me? I'm sitting in the building 16 hours a day while you listen to the radio on your way to work and think you know every fucking thing. I said, that only comes out when I'm really tired. But generally, I let them say their point. And good job, yeah, you got it, and move on. But you as a general, you'd rather have a fan base that cares than a fan base that doesn't care. I'd say that.
You know what? We are so glad you said that.
This is interesting here.
From a coach, because me and Richie, we go through that with our fan base is just totally. Look, you're not coaching. You don't follow the game. You don't know the X and O's.
I get heated when they want to talk about what we should do with the money, but they don't even know what we have in salary cap. I'm like, bro, you can find that out on SpoTrack. Like do a little research before you look this dumb. Sylvia Snead, her cousin was a member of the Chiefs last year. Parsons hanging out at many sports events. Some DC fans don't care for it. Eaglets, mean Eagle fans, want to claim him. Yeah, the PA roots. My buddy Zach actually did play with Michael when they were younger. Aaron, I did want to ask you about this for a moment. Beyond 113 Minority Award, I believe you're still affiliated with that. Just want to ask if you could expand on that and let the viewers know what this cause is about.
Well, so where I grew up in Chicago, in the north suburbs, we had, my sister and I went to the same high school, and it was about my second year in the NFL, I think, third, maybe, whatever it was. I was back home working out, and I was talking to one of my teachers who was still at the school, and she said, well, what are you doing for the school? I said, nothing. What are you talking about? I'm coming back. I'm working out. I'm here. She goes, that's not enough. She goes, you need to do something else. I said, okay, well, what are you thinking? So we got talking, and she's like, you should do it just like, even if it's something small, just a minority scholarship, because where we grew up was not a heavy minority area. And so she's like, you knew what it was like going to this school as a minority. And it wasn't the easiest thing in the world. And I was like, you know what, you're right. I said, so she's like, yeah, you come back and go to the sports stuff, and you come back and you work out in the weight room with the football players, or you might run on the track with the track guys, but just the regular students in the building, they need to see you also. And so it gave us a little platform. So what we did is we just started this. We started this award, and then as the years went on, we've kind of manipulated it a little bit and done some things. And now, you know, when COVID hit in 2020, and we really kind of decided, I just paid for most of it every year. I just did it. And then what we did in 2020, when we were sitting at home and my sister and I started talking, I said, we should make this bigger. Like, we're giving it to one kid. It's a renewable scholarship. We're giving $1,000 a year. Like, let's try to make it bigger. Let's try to find a way to make it better. And so we made a GoFundMe and raised almost $12,000 in a month. And
Oh, congrats, man. That's awesome.
And so what we've done is continued that, you know, through the Philadelphia Foundation here. They've kind of set it up where, you know, a GoFundMe, you know how that is. It's so most of it, you're just giving the money, and that's the end of it, unless it's set up. Well, now it's set up through the Philadelphia Foundation, so it's all taxed, and it's allowing people to get their you know, their donations, and they get a form for their taxes they could send in. So it's awesome, but it's a great award. Now we have 4 kids at once, so so we have 4 kids every year that are renewable. We're rolling through this thing right now, and we've kind of gone since 2020. We're about to launch this thing here probably in the next week. But through the last 3 years, we've raised over 20,000, a little over 20,000, 23 and 22 over the last 3 years for this. And so we kind of have a number that we're looking forward to getting to. And when we get to that, we may make a second one per year, or maybe even expand it to the other high school in our district. So we're kind of have some ideas there, but we love it. It's a great award. I'm glad way back when that we were able to sit and have that conversation with my teacher that she gave me a nice friendly reminder that I needed.
I'm sure it's a good feeling to know that you're helping young people expand their horizons. And, you know, education is expensive. That goes without saying. And I applaud you for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, good. I make them write a little essay, you know, all the candidates, and where do you want to go to school? Where are you going to school? What's your dreams? A lot of people, you know, and a lot of people, they'll say, hey, this is I'm going to be the first person in my family to go to college. Or I'm going to be, you know, some people are, hey, my family came over from X country, and I'm the first English speaking person in my family, my siblings and I. So, you know, you hear a lot of different stories, and, you know, some people are super smart and have great successful families, and they're just like, I want to go to this school. And so you just kind of go through it, and I choose based on who I feel like I have the feeling for, you know, and each year it's pretty cool. And I'll send it to my sister, and we'll make a little decision, and we'll go. So it's a good award and good scholarship. And you know, I try to stay in touch with the people who get it, and at least through social media, if they need anything, they always have contact to me and my sister. So we're
cool.
You know, I'm a little older, so it's like you don't want to be the creepy dude who's following like the 15-year-olds on Instagram, but you know, you want to be there, you know, if they need anything.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
How do you coach the work-life balance to your players as far as right now, the next 5 weeks before training camp starts? You said growing up when you were during your off seasons, you would go coach at local high schools and things of that nature. And so with your players, how do you coach, for one, avoiding complacency as far as, well, I'm here already. I don't have to show up. I just need to show up. I don't have to work on my craft or anything like that. And how often are you in touch with your players to ensure that they are doing what they need to do over the next 5 weeks to avoid that complacency?
Yeah, I try to. I mean, we have a good working room. I'll say that. Guys work. I mean, AJ, Devontae, those are the 2 guys in our room that are our 2 best players, and they work the hardest, which is great. We got guys in our room, Greg Ward, who's been there forever, that works like crazy. So those guys set the tone, and so I won't blow them up. You know, I'll maybe once a week I'll send them some stuff we have a group text. I'll send them some stuff in there, you know, just so they see it. But this is their time, and I just was with them for the last 6-7 weeks. I'm going to be with them here for 6 months. So I try to let them have their time and be with their families or be with their friends and just, just friendly reminder, hey, how you doing? I'll call them, maybe once every couple of weeks individually or text them just to check on them. But, they need time away from me just like I need time away from them, because once the season starts, it's every day. So I think that's a great question, but I think the balance is there. Like, you can't be calling a guy every day in the off season. They're going to be sick of you before you get to camp. They're not going to want to listen when it matters.
I do want to make. Go ahead, Idris. You first.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
No, you're good.
During the season, how often do you actually get to go home and sleep in your own house, in your own bed? I mean, one day a week.
We're there every night, but
okay.
During after camp's over, like generally Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm usually up and out before everybody's up, and I usually get home when everybody's already asleep. And then Thursday's usually the first day that I'll see everybody in the evening. I'll see my wife. She'll stay up and wait for me to get up. But the kids I don't usually see till Thursday. And then as the week slows down, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you see them more and more, and then the cycle just goes back. So for really Monday through Wednesday, I barely see my kids at all, unless it's
what about during the season
before they go to school.
What about during the season?
That's through the season. Now,
okay.
In camp, usually I'll get home, between 8:30 and 9, and if somebody's up, they're up. If not, they're not. But I won't see them in the morning. They'll all be sleeping when I leave. So that's that's why this time of year is important. You gotta make it up in the off season. You gotta go be around. You gotta be present. And you gotta. I got to take my wife on dates and make sure she knows that, we're still
there
having fun together. You know what I mean? Because the season's hard. She's like a single parent during the season. I'm not there. I can't help her drive anybody anywhere. I can't help her with anything. I can't do anything. So I try to do as much now as I can.
Yeah. Okay.
You guys had a Christmas album last year. So I got to ask you, I know that there's been, I heard some players' accounts. Who's the best singer on your team?
Jordan Mailata.
Yeah.
Oh, he didn't even skip a beat.
Yeah, he didn't even hesitate, bro. Yeah,
I've got to figure that.
I tend to agree. Is that a unanimous on the panel?
Ever, and he can sing it's some people are just talented and they just can do everything. He's one of those type of guys.
All right.
I was cracking up when I heard Kelsey kind of do like the little jingle on the side thing. Yes. I was like, he's like karaoke good. Yeah. But that other dude, that was impressive.
Yeah, he was. When you get invited to be on The Masked Singer, you can sing.
Yeah.
Speaking of singing, on Sunday, as you're preparing for game day, your very first NFL game, I believe, was the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
And how did you prepare yourself for a game, knowing that you were going to be running out of the locker room with the likes of a Marvin, Reggie Wayne, Peyton Manning? How did you prepare yourself? What were you listening to motivate you for kickoff?
So interesting. I'll tell you a good story about that. So my mom drove to the game from Chicago. So she takes me out to lunch, and we go to this like restaurant bar place. And on the window of the restaurant bar says, "LeBron, you can eat here for free as long as you're, welcome to the NBA." Yeah. He's a rookie the same year I'm a rookie. Oh, I've been coaching almost 15 years, and this dude's still. LeBron.
Yeah.
Cleveland and LeBron are going to be like this forever. But that was and you're thinking about that, going, man, that guy is, and he was 18 and he's rolling, man. I mean, he's slowing down a little bit, but like he's still unbelievable. I'll never forget that sign, that they basically, and you're like, I can't believe he's still playing. But all that being said, we go in, we're playing. My whole mindset is I'm listening to damn Tupac, Biggie, like mind right, go slap the shit out of somebody because that's what you got to do. Because I'm playing special teams. I'm not even playing offense. So special teams is a whole nother world.
Right.
Car collisions and special teams.
Yeah. And so I'm on punt return and kick return. So there's a chance I could play the first play of the season, So it's like you got to get your mind right and go. And you don't know if it's going to be kickoff or kickoff return until they flip the coin. So, I wasn't playing on offense at that point. So it was all special teams. So I was mentally prepared for all my special team stuff. And then it was, you better know what's going on in offense because anything could happen where you might have to play. And, so I just kind of studied my game book one more time in the locker room just to make sure I was on top of the plays. And, we was good. Went out and got a win that day.
You caught a pass from Peyton
What was
Manning.
your?
Oh, my bad, Zappy.
Yeah. No, it was leading up to that.
Oh, okay. We'll get ahead. You get ahead and ask it. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to ask. Obviously, you caught a pass from Peyton. What was your greatest moment? Making your first special teams tackle, catching a pass from Peyton Manning versus the Houston Texans for a touchdown, or winning the Super Bowl in 2006-07 season with the Indianapolis Colts? And you also recorded a tackle in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I would say winning the Super Bowl, you can't beat that. I mean, it is what it is. Like, you're gonna, if you haven't won one, you're fighting that demon forever because you want it. It's that bad. There's been unbelievable players that have never won one. So I'll take that first. But I would say catching my first pass in the game was probably the biggest personal thing because it was like you're here, you've made it.
You made it.
And it was similar to what happened in the Cleveland game. It was two people got hurt in back-to-back series, and I went from being a special teams player to all of a sudden I was the third wideout, and we were playing the Jets, and I got 2 catches in that game. I caught, a little slant, and then I caught a deep ball down the sideline. And those 2 games were like, those 2 plays to me were kind of like, dude, you're here and you can do this. You know what I mean? Like, not only are you here, you can play special teams, like, great. Like, any player that tells you they want to play special teams is like doing it out of necessity to keep their career going, not because they want to play the position they got drafted or they're there to play. Mm-hmm. And so those 2 plays for me were huge, that it kind of validated your hard work. And then it's like, now you got to keep going and keep playing. But that, Super Bowl is Super Bowl, man. That's the best. Period.
So I'm gonna ask you one more question before Richie asks you the ultimate question. Are you going with a Chicago deep dish pizza or a Philly cheesesteak?
Okay. Well, since I've been trying to be on, like eat healthy and all that, but since we're just diving down and I don't give a crap, at this point, I would probably. Golly, that's sad. I think I'd rather eat a Philly cheesesteak right now.
Thank you. Philly got to go Philly cheesesteak.
Right now. Now, there was a time in my life that I would say absolutely not. But, I think that, I don't know, man. I've gotten so far away because I've been gone for so long of eating like really good deep dish pizza that it's like I don't have the cravings for it anymore. We're like, right now, you saying like Philly cheesesteak, I'm like, I might leave and go to lunch and get a Philly cheesesteak. You know what I mean?
Got a question, and I guess we'll answer this as a panel, give our few opinions. Coming up on the 2-minute mark. Who would win?
Oh,
yeah. And your father might be watching, so you.
But I give you guys a puncher's chance for one sincere reason. Their one blemish that year was against Dan Marino's Dolphins. You guys did have Peyton. And
what era are we playing in? Are we playing in 85 or are we playing in 2006?
Let's say 95. So kind of like in the middle of both, maybe.
95, you could still kill the quarterback. So
that's true. That's true.
So I would say if you were playing today, right now, as we sit, I'd say we'd be able to beat them because their whole deal was kill the quarterback and then kill the backup. And they tried with Buddy Ryan to do that every single game. I think they said they got to like 13 backup quarterbacks that year or something crazy. Like,
yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Like you if you're playing in that era, like good luck. You know what I mean?
I always tell people like the Brady Montana comparison. I consider them almost the same football player, but I would say that flip the generation, and that's why one guy lasts longer because it's a little more feasible to play longer nowadays.
I think that there's a reason they're thought of as a top 3 team of all time, and I'd have to give them the probably the nod. But if you took it into 2015, 2016, we'd have a real chance against those guys, I think.
Aaron, thank you so much for joining the panel today.
Oh man,
this was a blast, and you're always welcome back, even though you are an Eagle. Have a great day, everyone. Take care of yourself. Good luck this season.
All right, man. Appreciate you.